This is Russ Jamison. I'm the instructor for LDR 300 Leadership Fundamentals course at the University of Mount Olive. Time is 7 minutes after 7, 1907 for those on the 24-hour clock. And today's date is the 12th of February, 2026. I apologize for the late start. Trying to get Zoom to cooperate with me for some reason, having some challenge. I'm trying to share my screen. You should see the course text, Leadership Experience by Richard Daft. This is edition 8 of the course. Excuse me, of the course text. And you should see this is your welcome to LDR 300. We started on the 14th of January, 2026. Today is the 12th of February, so we're just a little over halfway through, heading into week 5. Okay. This is Thursday night Zoom session. This is my equivalent of office hours, not to be confused with Article 15 NJP office hours that we had in the Marine Corps, for example, which is a bad thing. This is more of a virtual time in the office with your instructor, since I don't have an office on campus or an online course. I'm hoping you can hear this video. I think the audio was kicking my butt for some reason. I'm not sure I'm getting a good playback. So hopefully everything's tracking along. All right, what we want to do tonight is take a look at a few things. So far, nobody has joined us that I could see. Again, not a problem. These are not mandatory. This is your time in case you had any questions or anything of interest that you needed to share, comments or concerns. As it is, what I do is I'll take some time here to go through the course periodically. Normally, I try to do these every week. Last month has been a little bit of a challenge where I had some exigencies pop up that prevented a couple weeks anyway. And so I appreciate your patience and hopefully didn't drive anybody away. Okay, so as we're looking at the course, you are directed towards the announcement section. You will see this is where I post the weekly instructions for that particular week. I uploaded week 5 instructions on Fridays, usually. Last one went out on the 7th of February, so that, yeah, Friday or Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. Anyway, there's a couple more that are popping up. They'll pop up later on this evening or tomorrow. I'm providing you the scoring rubric that I will use to grade your final paper. This final paper is due week 7. Remember, this is a 7.4 week long course. That 4.4 amounts to just a couple days. So the Sunday, that is the end of week 7, is when the paper is due. That gives me some time to grade it and give some time for some shoots to get out of the way. And then I've provided something that'll probably pop tomorrow, which is just some interesting, relevant information. It's related to your course, but it's non-testable, it's going to be covered on any quiz. It's not necessarily in your text, but it is related. And I think you'll find it of interest. So hopefully that's the case. All right. So covering the weeks as a whole, I'm very impressed with this course, with you, the students in this course. I appreciate your candor and your insights. I read them all, and I do provide feedback. Primary means of feedback I provide is in the form of the grade. So if you score an A out of the possible points, you'd have to go in and calculate that. How many points total and ratio of points you earned to points total. There's not much more I can offer to you if you're already getting a high score, an A. That basically means you are doing everything right and then adding some. I appreciate the depth that you go to. That means you're not hitting just the minimum requirement, and that you're doing some fine work, so to speak. Again, this is a leadership course, so in many ways, there aren't any necessarily right answers in the way we approach things. You and I could look at the same situation, see the same leadership challenge, and then offer different ways of addressing that challenge. Remember, leadership is an influence to get intended effect. And how you intend to get that effect is the tool that you use. So I may use a different tool. That said, if you get the effect and it addresses the concern, the leadership challenge, and track on. This is that art in leadership being an art and a science. We tend to know what the tools are in the science part. In other words, what the theories are, the models, principles. But in the art, it's how we apply those. In many ways, it's the same as if we were teaching an art course. We could teach brush strokes, color palettes, effective paint on canvas, types of application materials that you have, which would be the science part. But the art is what is self-ingrained in how you express it, and is your stamp, if you will. That's true. You could copy somebody and become a forger. Maybe not necessarily a forger, but certainly somebody who can copy reproduction. But that's not what this is about, is it? That's why we've gotten away from the gray man theory. We certainly emulate great leaders of the past. We certainly want to study them and see what he or she did in a situation so that we can understand learning and applications. But overall, this is contingency theory, which is every situation is different, every leader is different. And you have to find what is right for you. All right, enough of that. So week 4, we covered. I was giving you some feedback on your discussion forum. You see my screen, you will see that there were 2 questions. We went ahead and got into mission of an organization, chapter 7, which was mission and vision. This is the realm of the leader. Okay, this is one of the major breakout differences between a manager and a leader. Okay, in the case of leadership, we want to know where we are, which is obviously the mission. And it is timeless. It applies over a course of time. This is your reason for being. I wanted you to take your current mission statement of the organization, if that wasn't available, then take the mission statement for the University of Mount Olive, or take a mission of a place that you don't work. In other words, maybe the church you attend. Many of you opted for all those. A couple of you opted not to share the organization, which makes this a little difficult to grade your answer. But we worked around it. Okay. But I wanted you to share the current mission statement, and then I wanted you to do a small analysis on that, and then answer whether or not most of the employees or members of that organization know the mission statement. And there's reason why. Again, we do the mission statement. It's our reason for being, so we need to understand that. And then ultimately, provide 2 ways that leaders in an organization can more effectively communicate the mission both to people inside and outside the organization. In other words, we're not just worried about the employees, but we want people who are not maybe familiar with our organization to know what our mission is. Even if they are familiar, they should know what the mission is. Anyway, so that is where we are. And then where we are heading is the vision. Is, again, the realm of the leader. Where do we want this organization to be in 3 to 5 years, typically, is the time frame. Don't get wrapped up in 3 to 5 years, but certainly a vision statement should change over time. It should be an evolutionary process to be sure, but also it should be evolving. Think of the death of an organization. You see everything goes through a life cycle. And that applies to any organization. If there's not change, then that organization is doomed to ultimately flounder and fail. Contrary to this, or likewise, we find that some organizations don't get the vision right and take their organization opposite of what their mission is and do some great harm. Those that don't change, think of Blockbuster, video rentals. Years ago, you saw video rental stores on almost every corner of every town. Blockbuster was the organization. You would go in there and rent a movie to take home to watch. And at some point, Blockbuster had well over 90% of the market share of video rental stores. It's pretty impressive. But they didn't change. They didn't evolve using online streaming. In other words, why go to a store on a street corner to rent a video to take home when you can stream it, rent it from your laptop? And so Blockbuster didn't embrace that. And ultimately, you don't find them anymore. There may be still one or two left, I guess. And then you see organizations that come close to failure. Think of last summer with the CEO of Cracker Barrel, who started changing in large measure her vision of that organization was no longer what you know of a Cracker Barrel. In other words, knickknacks and artifacts up on the walls, recessed or diminished lighting, wood oak type of tables, chairs, much like you're sitting in the kitchen of a farm or a country home. And Cracker Barrel getting its name, obviously, from the way soda crackers used to be packed. They were used by tables, many playing checkers on them at the old country stores. And Uncle Herschel, who evidently founded the organization, anyway, did away with some of the menu items, changed the decor, changed the lighting, changed the logo. And ultimately, there was a lot of pushback because the base, the customers, have a reason why they like Cracker Barrel and go to Cracker Barrel. So when you start to change fundamentally your organization, understand that you'll lose your base. Now, that may be what you want in the long run. It may not be advisable. Another case might be, although the mission of the organization didn't change, a major change that occurred in the National Football League, NFL, a few years back was the team franchise in Washington, D.C. decided they had to change their name. So going from Washington Redskins to the Washington football team to ultimately Washington Commanders took place. That included doing away with their logo. Although it didn't say Redskins on it, it featured a Blackfoot Indian. They kept their colors, burgundy and gold. They kept their fight song, changed some of the words. Still take credit for 3 Super Bowl wins, but they fundamentally changed their organization. Some people embraced the change, others did not. So whenever you think through this, go back again and look at your mission and understand what that is and make sure that your employees do as well. And that was the reason why I asked and wanted you to cover this question again. Many of you did a very fine job at that. Okay, question number 2 is a little tougher. Okay, and we start getting into empowerment. Okay, 3 key elements of an engaged workforce: a sense of meaningfulness, a sense of connection, and a sense of growth. And wanted you to consider psychological factors in the job characteristics model in your answer. I apologize for the typo there in your answer, sorry. And that was a tough one. And many of you gave it a great shot. and went after it. I provided you a response of what I was looking for, and in many ways, it got into a simple response. Not, again, to say that that was the end all, but something that I want you to consider. And I will, let me see if I pull it up here. Yeah. So I provided a lot more on the mission statement to include a wow factor in your statement. I go to consider it. But anyway, in summing up question 2 on the issue of empowerment, basically, in many ways, I was just looking for a simple ad that empowerment provides strong motivation because the individuals have a sense that they can control their work and success. In other words, we want people that have ownership, even if they are salaried or hourly employees. And again, a lot of that is the sense of responsibility. Anyway, there are 5 elements on pages 301, 302 that would work here. Again, wanted you to dive deep. Okay. So with that, we go into week 5. I know, by the way, most of you did well on the quiz. A couple of you did not take it. I'm presuming that was by choice and not something that was inflicted upon you. If there was an issue that I need to be aware of, certainly please let me know. All right, I've clicked into week 5. This week, again, you're to read chapters 9 and 10 of your text. This is leadership communication and leading teams. This is great stuff here. In the discussion forum, 2 questions. Question number 1 is, why is storytelling such a powerful means of communicating for a leader? And how is active listening related to this storytelling? Okay, so kind of a 2-part first question here. And this will be good to see your responses for. And then in discussion 10, in chapter 10, you read about leading teams. And on page 367, it talks about how today's organizations and challenges are too complex for a formal leader to make all the decisions. In other words, the importance of a high-powered team that can make key decisions. Okay, so again, getting back to the Cracker Barrel decision, was that an individual made that decision? Or was it a team? We don't really know. That insight wasn't provided to us. The CEO, I think, is still there, so that implies a team might have. And there's a practice in teams that can be a failure. A concept called groupthink, where everybody on the team decides to agree as the most on the issue as a means of getting along and facilitating what they think is functionality. But it can lead to bad decisions. People are afraid to speak out. So look at the concept of groupthink as you're going through this. But in this question, I wanted you to find a best practice that you saw a leader use or you yourself use in developing a successful team. And as always, you can also argue the negative in this. You can tell me what a worst practice was that you observed, okay? And something that a leader did, or perhaps you did, that created dysfunction. It had to be corrected before the team could enter the performing stage of team development. Remember the 5 stages of team development, right? Form, storm, norm, perform, adjourn, right? I had to kind of think about that for a second there off the top of my head. Anyway, so take a hard look at that. This is all good stuff. Again, as always, your initial post should be tomorrow night by 23:59. Some of you are getting your initial posts in a little late. I'm accepting those. That's late work. But I am docking you some points for late penalty. So please be cognizant of that. Get your initial post in by Friday. I take a look at those Saturday morning, and I provide feedback that next day of things I want you to consider and things that I'm looking for. So that's why I want you to get that initial post in. From there, you're to provide at least 2 responses to your fellow student learners, and those need to be in by Sunday. You can certainly try to do your response posts when you do your initial upload, if others have. Some get their work in early, and that's perfectly fine whenever you get those done. All right, leadership practice. Again, these are your summary reports. These form the basis of your week 7 paper. I'll talk about that here in just a little bit. That leadership effectiveness paper due in week 7. Again, this week you have 2 exercises due. I encourage you to do them all, but you only need to write a summary report on the 2 that I assign. But take a look at those self-insight exercises and try to do them. Try to do all the work. I think you'll find it worth time worth your while. All right, so this week, leadership practice, know yourself, 9.1 on page 327 and 10.3 on page 387. Most of you are doing a great job. You're answering both or providing a summary report on both that I assign. Every week, 1 or 2 of you get confused or get rushed. I'm not sure what the exact issue is, but you're doing work other than the leadership practice, know yourself exercise. And so don't get confused. Look at that carefully and make sure that you're answering, providing a summary report on the correct exercises, please. That's attention to detail. I am accepting erroneous work. I will try to find points where I can for you because I appreciate at least the effort. But when you don't answer or provide a summary report on the correct exercise, then I can't do much for you. So that hurts in the long run. Anyway, those are due by Monday evening. I will be on what we call TAD, temporary additional duty. Even though I'm a contractor, I still go by some military terms. But the long and the short is I will be in the state of Commonwealth of Kentucky, not state, but the Commonwealth of Kentucky on a business trip. I will still do some work, but I won't be perhaps as responsive as I normally am. I'll still try to meet the timelines. But I will certainly be able to grade your work on Tuesday. Okay, your quiz. Quiz has been going good. Most of you doing well. I review your quizzes every week. I look to see how many students miss a particular question. If 3/4 of the class misses a particular question, I'll go back and review that question just to make sure there wasn't an issue with it or that it wasn't quote unquote unfair. That has not occurred in this class. In other words, most of you are doing exceptionally well on the quizzes and you're acing them. So good job on that. Okay, again, the quiz opens typically on Friday when I've got the questions uploaded. So tomorrow around noon, I plan to have the questions uploaded and released. And please have the quiz done by Tuesday, the 17th of February by 1500, 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I know that time seems to catch a couple of you on occasion. And again, if there's an issue, certainly let me know. Forgive me for scratching my neck there, Mitch. Certainly let me know if there's an issue. Okay, it's better to do that beforehand than after the fact, but certainly, again, communicate. Okay, as always, every week has your module learning objectives. Those are provided there, module overview, and then the objectives, so you can see the 4 that are listed. Always good to take a look at that before you dive in, so you get kind of the forest beyond the trees, so to speak. And I provide you some PowerPoint files here that come from the publisher on the chapters to augment what you read in your text LPM. Okay, as I promised, let's take a look at that final paper. Or I couldn't get it to move for some reason. Okay, that paper is due week 7. You go into week 7 and you scroll down, you see the normal discussion forum, summary report, quiz, and there's the link to upload your leadership effectiveness paper and the instructions. Read the instructions carefully. This is not your summary reports. This is a separate and distinct paper that is using, a lot of cases, what you've written in a summary report, and I'll explain that here in a bit. But you've got about 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7 pieces that are in 5 different sections. Those 7 are: make sure you have an introductory paragraph that includes your position statement, what you're going to write about, a concluding paragraph that sums up what you said. Remember, that's your last opportunity to hit your reader. And then you need to make sure you include your response to all these. Explain the importance of effective leadership. Explain how leaders can develop future leaders. 3 major concepts presented in the course that you found of great importance. Okay, these are things that you covered in your summary report. Okay, pick 3. Assess your strengths and weaknesses to those leadership concepts that you defined and discussed. Again, your summary reports did that. You did your strengths and weaknesses. Okay, consider those self-identified leadership strengths and weaknesses, and then elaborate. Tell me how you can effectively employ your strengths while developing your weaknesses. And then finally, how are you going to put into practice 3 different methods of developing others to help improve their workshop or workplace effectiveness? Okay, that may include developing your subordinates, your others, as leaders. Let them take those self-insight exercises and you monitor. Provide them some of the instruction that you've got out of this course, okay? Anyway, as always, I want you to generally follow APA formatting, spelling, and grammar. This is not an English class. I'm not an English major, but I still expect you to proofread your paper. Certainly, you can use spell check and Grammarly. I will consider those AI, but I want to see you write the paper, not AI. Okay, then I reference C in the grading rubric. So let's take a look at that. Again, these have to be uploaded. Your paper has to be uploaded. Sorry, I lost it there. Your paper has to be uploaded no later. I'm sorry, I said Sunday. It's actually Tuesday. So Tuesday, 3 March is 7.4. So I say week 7, I should go back and change that. But anyway, don't wait until the last minute, okay? But certainly have it in by Tuesday, 3 March. That's essentially the last day of week 7. Okay, so I had it right. I apologize for the confusion. Again, have your paper no later than 23:59 on the 24-hour clock, 11:59 p.m. Okay. Here in a few minutes, that rubric will open. You can access it by going into the announcement. When it pops, you will see it as a PDF file. Clicking on that should open the file for you. And it's a 1-pager, possible 300 points. Content is worth 210 points. Organization and structure is 10 points. Again, I recommend using paragraph headers to help organize your paper. Watch your position statement and the introduction paragraph. How well you support your paper, the structure, syntax construction, and your connections and transitions, how you transition from one to the other. Okay, style and grammar, originality, tone, rhetoric, mechanics, and punctuation. Okay, how you write is known to me now because you've been turning in papers. Use of rhetoric, how effective are you in your communication? And those are worth 40 points. So 40, 50, that's 90, 210, that's 300 points total. In the content, this is where you find those 7 sections. That includes the introduction paragraph and the concluding paragraph, and then those 5 that I just laid out with you. So make sure you look at this closely and understand what it is that I'm after, what I want you to do. Okay. Hopefully this helps some. I'm going to go back to the original page. As you can see, week 5 we're in, started yesterday, the 11th. We're in our normal battle rhythm. Your initial post on the forum discussion due Friday. Right? Have your responses in by Sunday. I take attendance Sunday night based on that week's work. Attendance is based on actually providing substantive input, not just checking Moodle, but answering the question or engaging me in an offline discussion, email or otherwise, as it relates to the course. Okay? And then we're down to week 6 and 7, and then week 7.4. So this is going to go by quick. Take a look at the work you've turned in. If you are missing work, if you see a 0 on the grade book, that means I never received it, or you didn't turn it in, or both. If there's something that you want to engage me on, or if I've made an error, certainly let me know. And let's engage on it. If you and I already have an agreement on some work that needs to be made up, technically University of Mount Olive policy is not to allow makeup work, but I understand exigencies happen, things happen beyond our control, and continue on with our plan as we've discussed. If you and I have not yet discussed it, then we need to do so. Okay, otherwise the zeros will stand. Okay, again, great job, everybody. I really do I mean it when I say that this has been an exceptional class, doing some great work. I appreciate your diligence, your effort, your candor. Many of you are exceeding minimal standards, and so are getting reflected in the grading. And I appreciate that extra work and pushing beyond just what is the minimum. That's what the mark of a true leader is. Okay, and again, take this time. This is yours. What time do we have? All right, so I see it's 7:40. Normally these things cut me off at about the 45-minute mark. So I'll do the wrap up. Don't wait until the last minute for an offshoot, I call it. When the leadership course ends, which is on Friday, the 6th of March, I essentially have to get your grades in within just a matter of a day or two. If you are graduating in the spring, I need to get your grades in before that Friday. Okay, so we need to make sure all that work is done. That's one of the reasons why I need to get your final paper in certainly no later than Tuesday, the 3rd of March. Okay, and again, if something happens, just let's communicate. All right, again, thank you very much. There's 26 of you, so I haven't been able to give you the one-on-one time for many of you that I've wanted, but you're doing exceptional work. So if you're not having a conversation with me on something, generally means you're doing very good. Even for those of you doing good, I try to encourage you, keep charging and hang in there. Again, you're doing fine work. Keep it up. Okay, thank you again for your time and interest. Again, nobody joined us, which again is fine. And these are not mandatory, but I do post these. You will find those under the student lounge. Click on it. You scroll down to the weekly office hour Zoom sessions, shared video. That's where they are. I do post these on YouTube, and I typically will provide you the link. Okay. Again, thank you for your time and interest. And I wish you all a good week. Happy Valentine's. I always said Happy Thanksgiving. Okay, I'm not sure where that came from. Happy Valentine's Day. All right. Take care.